today, which isn't a tremendous amount of time, but we wanted to cover a few different things here with you this morning or this afternoon, I guess it is, and offer you the opportunity to do some follow-ups with this as well. So we are here at the factory in the showroom. We have two of our Mercury consoles set up here in the showroom, showing a couple of different options and a couple of different configurations. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Watson as a company first before we get started. We're located here in the Pacific Northwest. We're just outside of Seattle. We're very right away from Seattle. We've been in the console furniture public safety industry for just over 35 years, have a fair number of years of experience, selling into California. We in California have a couple of contract options for folks who are in California for both the CMAS contract as well as the NASPO contract within the state of California for some procurement options. But I do want to tell you a little bit about the Mercury consoles today. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit for this to get you guys a little bit here. It's a little bit goofy on the way it zooms in. I apologize. But I want to tell you about the Mercury consoles today. Mercury consoles were something that we did a complete redesign a few years back, ground up redesign of console furniture based upon today's technology requirements, today's PSAP requirements. We went out and did 14 months of research on consoles and console requirements and collected a large amount of information and wanted to see what we could potentially do to solve a lot of the issues that we were seeing in today's PSAPs over and over again. Two of the ones that came to the forefront that we saw that we were trying to address that were most prominent were, one was a better, more effective use of footprint space, floor space within the PSAP, and the second was trying to give some real estate and some work environment back to the dispatchers themselves. So the Mercury design aspect itself was very reflective of doing those two things. We went from the traditional corner console to more of an inline linear type of console solution. One, to eliminate all the dead space behind the monitors that just became sort of a catch-all for other things. And two, we changed it up and we went from two traditional surfaces, a keyboarding surface and a monitor surface, to a different aspect to try to give some of that real estate back. So instead of having two independent surfaces to house both the keyboards and input devices and a separate surface for monitors and other things, what we've now done is this large main surface is now the input or the dispatcher's work environment, and the monitor adjustments are actually done by a height adjustable monitor rack as well. So there's no dedicated surface to the monitors themselves. So that allows us to shrink the size of the console itself, be more efficient with this footprint, and actually give more space back to the end user. We worked very hard and long to work on the end user's sort of aspect and interaction with the consoles. Two main things with end users and consoles, going to be two things: ergonomics, and then it's going to be their own personal environment. The Mercury consoles meet all of the ergonomic requirements that are out there, all the ergonomic standards that are out there. They require you to do three really essential things as part of that requirement. And the first is going to be the height adjustability of your input or your working devices. So you have electronic height adjustment of that. Secondarily, you have full adjustment of the height of all of your monitors. And then the third thing, which is getting a lot more notoriety and a lot more attention these days, is the ability to change your focal length distance. So the distance from where you're sitting to the monitors that you're actually viewing. As we're getting more and more monitors and the monitors are actually increasing in size, this is becoming more and more important in the daily work environment to be able to independently adjust that. So the Mercury consoles themselves do that in two completely different ways. First of all, you have the ability to articulate and move each one of these monitors independently. So every monitor has the ability to adjust forward, to adjust back, to adjust up, to adjust down, to adjust the tilt, as well as the articulation between landscape and portrait. But secondarily, we wanted to give you another level of adjustment, which we thought we could do this in an easier manner, because if the ergonomic adjustments are not easy, then we found that the dispatchers will not actually use those particular movements. So what we've actually done is we have two brake system that's underneath the work surface. There's two levers that are here. You can physically actually move yourself and your work surface closer or further away from the monitors that you're viewing. And being able to do this in a quick, very effective way, as opposed to moving every monitor, is a much preferred method. And we found that people will actually use those adjustments if they're super easy to use. The other thing we've done is we've worked on a way to encourage the dispatchers to actually use the functions that are there. Sit-to-stand functions has been in console furniture for a number of years, but what we found out in the market research is that people were not using this function as much as we would like them to use the function. So what we've done is we've incorporated what we call a wellness switch. And this switch not only adjusts the height of the work surface and gives you a digital readout of what that number is so that you can replicate your ergonomic settings on a day-to-day basis, but it actually takes, when you go from a sitting position to a standing position, and it actually counts the number of minutes that you're in that position, in a standing position, and it actually converts it to the number of calories that you actually burn while being in that standing position. It also allows you to track a report on the daily for the number of minutes and the number of calories you burn for the day, as well as set an alert within the switch itself that's on 15-minute intervals that you can set for a reminder. It's a visual reminder. There's no audible reminder. It's just going to flash and let you know that it's time to take a standing break. What's really great about this is you can use this in conjunction with wellness programs and some other things within the facility, and getting that cognitive feedback like you would from a Fitbit or an iWatch or something like that, and being able to actually track the progress that you're making with that really is an effective way of getting people encouraged to get out of their chairs and use these ergonomic functions that are there. So that's a little bit about the ergonomic portion of this. The secondary part of this is that we wanted to be able to let the dispatchers themselves control their own personal environment. Any PSAP in the entire country you go into, they're going to probably fight about three things. They're going to fight about the overall lighting within the room. They're going to have disagreements on the overall temperature in the room, and they're going to probably have disagreements on the chairs of which they should be sitting in. The chairs are outside of our scope of work, but we thought we'd try to help with the other two. So what we've done is integrated this environment control system, okay? It's all integrated into the console itself. We have no movable parts and pieces. We have no outside parts and pieces that can get lost or get broken. You have a centralized switch within the console to just turn off all of the functions of the environment controls themselves. You have independent controls for flexible task lighting at the desktop level. These are dimmable task lights, individually dimmable on each side. These are actually made by the same company that makes the lighting for patrol cars, so they are made for a 24/7 environment. They're made to take that sort of abuse. They're a great departure from the typical task lighting that we see that was adopted from the office furniture world, which really just doesn't have a tendency to survive in this world. We have a separate option for an indirect ambient lighting that's actually behind the monitors. And what this is intended to do is give you a nice soft lighting glow over the entire work surface. So in combination with task lights and the ambient lights, you have the ability to really truly adjust the lighting at your particular console and control your own environment. Secondarily, we provide both heating and cooling at each one of the consoles. Each one of the consoles features a forced air heater, a 450 watt forced air heater that's located up underneath the work surface. We wanted to get it out of the footprint of the console. We wanted to get it out of the floor. We wanted to eliminate those safety hazards that you can get when people put backpacks, purses, their feet, other things onto that. So having it located up under the work surface eliminates a lot of those safety issues. Secondarily, it's located in a spot that's going to give the end user the most impact from the heater itself. So that allows us, because the air is blowing directly onto the core of the dispatcher, it allows us to reduce the wattage of that heater itself down to that 450 watts as opposed to the typical 1,000, 1,200 watts that you would have in a space heater, which allows us to run the entire Watson system on a single 20 amp circuit as opposed to having to run a separate electrical circuit to run the heating itself. So it's a much more effective way of doing that. It also is only going to heat your particular environment. It's not going to push that heat out into the rest of the room. So what that means is when you have a number of these in one room, you're not going to have the heaters fighting each other, and they're not going to fight the overall temperature within the room itself. They're only going to heat their own little personal environment. For the people who run hot, we have an adjustable speed fan system at the desktop. It allows you to control the airflow. This is circulated. This is filtered airflow. There are two louvers on each side that allow you to completely direct this air to exactly where you need it. It's directly in front of the end user for the most impact, and it allows you to get the most effectiveness out of that as well. You have that all on-off function for all of the functions of the environment controls themselves. That's really something that we were really striving for from the perspective of being able to have each individual user adjust their own independent environment for everything that they're doing throughout the day. I'm going to have Kelly is going to switch her camera over here for us. Yep. So we're going to show a little detail here. The third thing that we really wanted to do in this system was be able to have direct at the desktop level, the ability to do interfaces with technology. So both on the left and the right side of the console itself, we have the ability to do interfaces with technology. And whether that is AC power convenient outlets, whether that is 3.5 millimeter for speaker connections, whether that is Cat5, Cat6 for Ethernet or speaker connections, RJ11, RJ12s for phone type connections. We also offer a powered USB at the desktop level, and this allows end users to charge personal devices without any connection into any mission critical systems. This is connected directly to building power, and it is charging only. You also have the ability to place switches at the desktop level for different functionality. These particular switches right now are actually running the functionality of our status indicator light up above the console. Most traditional usage of these type of switches for a manual type situation would be for supervisor assist, critical call, or maybe it might be for functionality of I'm away from my desk, just to have a visual cue that you left your desk for momentarily. You have the ability to do USB connections at the desktop level. These are really key for a couple different things. One is if you have a failure of a piece of equipment. So if you have a keyboard or a mouse that has now failed, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you have somebody accidentally spills a cup of coffee into a keyboard, stops working, you have the ability to do a hot swap here. So instead of trying to chase that cable and decide where that cable goes from a functionality point of view, you have the ability to do it right here at the desktop. Secondarily, for functions such as ergonomic devices, the long hours and long shifts in public safety sometimes take a toll, and people have requirements for very specific keyboards or mice to allow them from an ergonomic standpoint to get some relief. So it gives them the ability at the beginning of the shift to bring their own keyboard and their own mouse from an ergonomic point of view. And then the third reason is, quite honestly, started before this whole COVID situation that we're in, that some of the agencies were taking the advantage of issuing each one of their dispatchers their own keyboard and their own mouse, as well as their own headset from a hygiene point of view. And obviously that's become much higher priority with some of the pandemic things that we've been dealing with, but this allows them at the desktop level to be able to have those sort of interfaces with technology. So these all can be configured to each individual agency and what their particular requirements might be for those agencies. There are 10 connections on the left and 10 connections on the right, as well as the AC outlet that can be configured in any type of arrangement that they may possibly need to be integrated into the furniture. One of the other things that's really unique about this wellness switch and the functionality of that is that we've actually embedded this into the front of the work surface. So we've actually taken the time and effort to embed this switch in here from a durability standpoint. In the past, when we've done things underneath the work surface, the first thing that generally happens is that they get destroyed by the chairs of the arms of the chairs, and then we have some durability situations. Anything that is then mounted on the top of the work surface becomes a liability from the perspective they do not meet ADA requirements. So this sort of joined the best of both worlds. It allows us to put it in a location that's accessible to everybody, but it also allows us to place it in a location that's the most durable possible location from a longevity standpoint. Some of the other things we've done from a durability standpoint is that the console itself features a solid steel frame that runs from side to side underneath the work surface. So all the work surface and all the equipment is supported by a solid tubular steel subframe that's underneath it. We're using 4 lifting columns as opposed to the traditional 2. There's 2 on the left and there's 2 on the right from a durability standpoint. The other thing that you'll notice is that when you see underneath the bottom of this console here is that there's no exposed cables anywhere. The goal of this really was to eliminate having any cabling exposed to the end user for a reliability standpoint and just from a functionality standpoint. All technology within the consoles is stored externally, and this is accessible from both the front and the back of the console. Everything is accessible from front and rear with the minimal amount of disruption to the dispatchers, so that throughout the day, if there's ever a time for maintenance or updates that need to be made, we don't have to do the minimal amount of disruption. All of our technology cabinets offer an active cooling system. That means we are exhausting the warm air from the PCs out the rear of this console. There is a perforated steel air exhaust on the back side, perforated steel air intake on the front side to keep the air pulling the front and exhausting through the back. The goal of these is always pushing more air out of the cabinet than the fans or on the PCs are exhausting from the cabinet to keep everything running at an optimum temperature within the technology itself. We feature internal of the furniture. There is full data and power distribution and a 19-inch EIA rack internally, as well as an internal location for bringing power and data into the furniture, as well as dedicated grounding system within the furniture as well. All of the cable management is internal, runs from side to side. It is all lay-in cable management. There's no fishing through panels. All of the cable management from moving surfaces is managed through an energy chain, which is managed, and it's an easy, simple pull in, pull out, push in system for all of the cable management itself. Okay, you want to go back to the other camera there, Kelly? Thank you. So that's a little bit about sort of the inner workings of everything that we're doing here in the Watson showroom. There's a number of other features that we offer, storage features, secondary storage features, secondary work environment features, such as this here we call our team table. This can be shared technology integration. It can be a collaborative space. It can be a great space for a supervisor to roll up and dock on it for the day to do some training and observe some of the trainees. It's secondary storage as well underneath. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that. From that perspective of things, we offer a number of options for screen heights from 36 high to 66 high, with or without clear upper sections that can be both smoked as well as clear. They can be great for separation of noise, separation for physical separation, social distancing, other things. One of the other really nice things about the Mercury consoles itself is just that inherently the distance between consoles is always going to be beyond that 6-foot separation required by social distancing. We do have other options that can be both desktop mounted as well as cabinet mounted for acrylic sections and acrylic separations to physically separate dispatchers from each other. So there's a number of different ways we can do that. What's that?
We're at 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute left. Okay, so last but not least, I will offer up to anybody that's out there that's interested. We are also booking private virtual showroom tours. We can get into a lot more detail on the product itself. We can get into a lot of question and answers, and we can really address the things that might be specific to you. You can go to our website, and the sign up for the virtual showroom is right on the website. And we appreciate all the folks at the conference for giving us the opportunity to talk to you. Appreciate you, Larry. Thank you very much. And I hope everybody has a great conference.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.